Turn off Wi-Fi too.
We are live.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. A wonderful day, and I'm here. Couldn't be better.
Amazing. I'm so happy to have you. We had a little bit of an initial chat yesterday, but officially, like, it's the first time that we properly chat. So I'm looking forward to this, and yeah, it's super to have you.
Same here. I'm excited. This is the first time we've actually spoken face to face, so
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, amazing. So I guess to start with a little bit of context, there's no introductions, I think, that are needed, but I always like to start these with a bit of history of, like, your time in this space and how everything started for you from, the very beginning up until today.
Yeah, I mean, I could go into, what do you want me to go into? Just with crypto art, or are you thinking even my whole history as an artist?
Let's talk about the whole thing. I
Okay.
think that'd be awesome.
Definitely. It's an interesting story, I feel like. And
Great.
hopefully maybe it can inspire some people that are listening to this. So, long story short, I was in high school senior year in 2016, and I was never really into art. I was always a creative person, but I had never taken any art classes. I had never really studied art at all. And I started drawing my classmates with one line, all connected, just doodling in class, probably because I was bored or something like that. And I was doing it to express this idea that I realized that we're all connected in this life. And I think that's really what sparked my artistic journey, was realizing that something as simple as a line could hold such a deep meaning. And something as simple as a line could hold so much possibilities. And little did I know that it would really kickstart this entire journey. So I started posting my artwork online on Twitter, actually, in 2016. And I saw that people enjoyed it. They were connecting to it. So I continued to post more and gain a bit of a following. And after high school, I went to community college, and I was just going to go to school for business, get a business degree. But as we see now, things have changed. In community college, I was once again still posting, but I realized that if I was going to be an artist, at this point, this is what I thought, if I was going to be a true artist, like the masters, then I'm going to have to learn how to paint. And I had never painted before this. I had never taken painting classes, but I can tell you this, the first brushstroke, literally the first brushstroke that I had on canvas, it just clicked. It's like my eyes were opened for the first time, and I realized I'm an artist. It's like I found my passion finally. It's still ingrained into my memory. So that was around 2018. I started painting, and then I sold my first painting around the same time. And that was when I was gonna go forward into college. I was gonna transfer to a university. But I sold the painting, and I realized, I could make a living off of my ideas. And I could build these concepts, and I think I can do it. And I always say this. So if anyone's thinking of doing this, chasing your dream or playing it safe, I say this. I would rather chase my dream, because if I'm living in someone else's dream, or I'm living in whatever someone else wants me to do, I consider that a nightmare. So follow your dreams, because after that, I decided I was going to, pursue art. And that's kind of where this all started. Right then, right when I started painting. I could go
And
further
how,
into more, but I could go forever about this journey, you know? That's really how it started. And I decided to
and
drop out, and I decided that I was going to get into the gallery. So I painted for the entire year and ended up getting into a gallery. I guess this leads right into crypto art, right? So I finally got into a big gallery exhibition, and then the pandemic hit, and my dreams were a bit crushed. I was like, what now? How am I going to do this? And then I started hearing stuff about crypto art and this new movement, and basically it was perfect timing. And here we are, because yeah.
and tell me, yesterday when we were talking, you mentioned how, when you said to your like family, for example, I'm actually, I don't want to go to uni, like I want to be an artist.
Yeah.
And pursue this creative side of you.
Mm-hmm.
How did they take that? Like, how was that process?
I feel like everyone that I told initially was confused, because I was never into art, really. I never took a painting class, and now suddenly I'm telling everyone that I'm going to be an artist, and I'm going to be in galleries, and I'm going to have exhibitions. But I think once they saw the passion in me, their minds quickly changed. And that's originally why I wanted to get into the galleries. I wanted to paint this collection and showcase it, to prove not only to myself, but to others that this is possible and this is what I'm here to do.
That's funny. Like you're obviously like there's like you're saying, I want to prove to myself and to others that, being in a gallery is almost like a check mark that like I'm an artist, right?
Yeah.
And as you said before, like COVID happened and that didn't happen, but you're still pursuing this career, and you are an artist, and you've been um like selling and creating your artworks on the blockchain. So how was that narrative for you? Like, how did that translate from a gallery perspective to what you're doing now in crypto art?
I think that one thing that really piqued my interest in crypto art was, and this goes along with the gallery scene, is that the possibilities of exhibitions now, virtual exhibitions, were endless, seemingly limitless. When you're in the gallery scene, it's basically white walls with your art hung on it. And as the artist, you're in charge of the art on the walls. As the gallerist, you're in charge of the walls that hold the art, basically. But what really showed me that you don't need galleries is that the virtual aspect of these new exhibitions that I think crypto art has really put to the forefront of people's attention is that artists can now make the exhibition a work of art. And I think artists love telling stories, and by being able to create their own space and own experience and how they want others to experience their art will help them tell stories even better. So I think that was one reason I really fell in love with crypto art and the idea of the virtual landscape. But yeah, I mean, I had done other gallery shows and they were great, but one thing that I did notice is that there was so much hype in my mind to the gallery scene and showing for the first time. And when it happened, it was just kind of like, this is great and this is like a milestone, but I'm in love with art. So whether I show it in a gallery or in some virtual place or just even on Twitter showcasing my art. It's all about the art when it comes back to it. That's what I love. So that's another reason I love crypto art. There's so many different kinds of artists. There's so many different kinds of mediums being played with, and it's so innovative. So tons of art, tons of possibilities. I love it.
I love that the word art has literally come out, I think, since we started speaking, like about 20 times. So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
That's all
and,
I think about.
it's amazing. And actually, there's a really interesting point that you just made with the metaverse, experience, and how like artists really like have complete like creative possibilities on that. Like that's actually something that you're bringing up a really good point, because and we've seen this with so many different artists, that they create their own shows, they create their own galleries, they have the possibility of like even showcasing their art and artistic form in that virtual space,
Yeah,
which is truly unique to this movement.
definitely. I think it should be, I think everyone's wondering what's the next stage in crypto art? What's next? And I really believe that the virtual exhibitions as an artwork, as an experience themselves, is going to be the next thing. So we're just laying the groundwork right now. And another thing that you kind of just said about how I said the limitless possibilities, I think that's another really unique thing that crypto art has brought to everyone's attention. Because when I started off painting or creating art 6 years ago, I thought that fine art, it was in this little box. It was such a small box on what was considered fine art. And I mean, I was even at one point thinking, oh, to be taken seriously, I must paint in oil on canvas. And now with crypto art, and I truly believe this is a great thing, crypto art has blown that box to bits. Now anything can be fine art. It's all about the concept. It's all about the passion behind it that makes it the fine art, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear. The idea of I have to learn how to paint on canvas, or oil painting, and and actually you're a self-taught artist, right? You taught yourself how to paint, and the one line technique. Like, talk a little bit about that, because that's super interesting.
I think as a self-taught artist, sometimes I think it puts me, maybe not, I feel just at a different mind state, because I never grew up in art with rules. I don't believe there's rules in art. So being self-taught, I think, has helped me innovate more and push the boundaries, because I wasn't raised in this box that told me what to do. So learning how to paint is just trial and error, basically. The more you paint, the more you draw, the more you create, the better you're going to get. But I think that one of the most important parts about being a self-taught artist is following first your vision, not looking too much on social media or in the books on what you're supposed to do, following what your vision is. And second, figuring out what that vision is. What are you trying to represent to the world? What concept are you bringing to the table? I think that's important. But back to kind of the self-taught, while I'd never went to school for art, I have taken the time to constantly be looking at art, going to the museums, going to gallery shows, reading books about composition. Art history is super important. I would recommend that to everyone involved in crypto art right now. Read art history, figure out where we are right now in this thing we call art. We're at the peak of it. We're constantly at the peak. We're constantly moving forward. And I think it's important to understand what happened before us so we can take the lessons that other artists have taken years to discover and build on them. So I guess as a self-taught artist, it doesn't mean that I create in a vacuum. I think it's important to surround yourself with great art and great concepts, even great music, philosophy, really get into culture. I think all forms of art are connected. And with the one line, I mean, that just came naturally to me. All of this style, I never really tried to find a style. It just happened. I don't like forcing anything. Yeah.
And talking about your style, I'm gonna and your creations in general, I'm gonna bring up your profile on Super Rare to have a bit of a look at some of your work from, I guess, from the early stages. So I guess the first kind of was the first tokenized work was minted on Super Rare. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. First one ever was that right there, Obscure Objectivity.
Okay, tell us the story there.
Well, when I make art, every piece has a meaning, a deeper meaning than what meets the eye. And I don't always choose the meaning. I know that other people, I believe art's subjective, so you can take whatever meaning you want from this. But when I am making the art, I make it in a certain way. The style I use is supposed to represent something. So a little while back, I started to make people out of 3D objects. Like you see in this one, you see the rectangles. I've done pyramids, spheres, but these 3D objects, because what I noticed in life is that society objectifies people. They objectify them, they label them, they see them just as an object and not really what we are. We're much deeper than that. So I chose to paint people and create people out of objects to kind of point out how odd or abstract it actually looks when you look at someone objectively, if that makes sense. So that was the inspiration behind this.
There's when I look at a lot of your pieces, especially kind of these earlier ones, and I also think the one in the back that we have in the background, there, it reminds me a little bit of like Cubism as a style, and it's actually a style that I like particularly like a lot. But it's interesting because it's like it kind of like makes you rethink how you would usually think about, like, in this case, like a human being, right? Like the eyes are placed in a different place where you would usually place them. There's different shapes that kind of like make up the face. So and the composition of the color, like there's so many different colors that are placed together in places where you're not used to seeing those. So it's really interesting that the composition, as you said before, like you've researched a lot about composition, and I think it kind of shows in this as well.
Thank you. One thing I think that we can expose to the world right now, and you say color, I, believe it or not, am actually colorblind. Yes.
No way.
What I see and what you guys see is different. Now, I can see color, don't get me wrong. I'm not in black and white, like trapped in my mind there. But I am colorblind. So I see colors differently than people. I never really know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage. I do know that, though, I think my eyes then, people have told me there's a lot of contrast in the colors. And I think that's one thing that color blindness has helped with me, because I need that contrast. Because if you don't know, color blindness is basically you see certain shades, they mix. So picture red and green on a spectrum. Certain reds and greens become kind of a brownish color, or blue and purple. They sometimes, I can't tell the difference. So that's one really interesting thing. And then what you said about cubism is definitely inspired. Love cubism. And the origins of cubism, or analytical cubism, were taking objects and viewing them, trying to view them from all different angles at once. And what I try to do when I really make the objects, make it really objective, I call it metacubism, meaning that I don't try to see one object from multiple perspectives. I try to represent a person from multiple perspectives, their emotions, their ideas, or how they're feeling, their experience. I try to represent that from multiple perspectives. So it is connected. It's all connected.
That's actually, I didn't know that you were colorblind. That's super interesting. And actually it's crazy, because the composition of the color, the palette that you use, it's from like my perspective, from how I see it, it's like as if you how can I explain it? Like the palettes are like palettes of like dark brown, then lighter brown, then a bit lighter. Like it kind of like goes in like shades, and it's so perfectly like composed, which feels like it's kind of, there's a whole like thought that goes behind it. So yeah, it's, wow, blows my mind.
There's definitely a lot of thought that goes behind colors, but it's more so immediate feeling. I believe that colors hold emotion. Everyone's emotion they attach to a color is going to be different. Some cultures think red is evil or lust. Others associate it with growth and beauty. But from my perspective, I try to feel and then express through a color. So that's how I choose colors. Also, though, you have to think of how things are going to work, because I think a lot of people, or a lot of artists, or just in general, colors, you could just say, I want to express this idea, so I'm just going to put whatever I feel onto the canvas or onto the artwork. But I think an artist's job is to take what they're feeling or take their concept and try to represent it in some sort of way that can be better understood by others, if that makes sense. If you just, I guess it depends. It depends on what kind of art you do. But I always try to, I don't think too much about what people are going to think about my art. I think about how can I express this idea so people relate to it. I think that deals with colors, composition, style, a lot.
And when it comes to, exactly what you're saying, like how do people relate to your art and what you're creating? Like, have you had conversations with like collectors about, like specific feelings that certain kind of pieces have have provoked? And has this maybe at times like been surprising, or what you expected? Like how were those conversations?
I love those conversations. I love speaking to collectors. One that really sticks out if you scroll up is called that one, When One Door Closes. Yeah, an alchemist really felt connected to it. And, you know, I love hearing people's interpretations of my art, because when I'm making it, I try to get into a zone where it's almost like meditation. I'm not thinking, I'm not building off of preconceived ideas. There are no expectations going into an artwork. And I let it flow, and I let it come to light. I let whatever is within me manifest without putting too much change to it, because I want it to be authentic. And so what I'm trying to say is, when I'm creating art, like I said before, the style may have a certain meaning and the piece has a deeper meaning, but ultimately it's up to the viewer, you, to decide what it means. And they really had a connection to this, and they asked about different things. And it was fun seeing their interpretation and how it matched with mine, or how it altered from how I see it. But I love those conversations. I love hearing what people have to say about my art, how they connect to it, how it makes them feel. That's the art, really.
Yeah.
You know, the art is how you connect to someone. That's true
Yeah,
art.
absolutely. I agree. And I think, you know, it's yeah, it is. I always asked artists, like, you know, and whenever there's an opportunity, I think for artists to speak to collectors. And I think, you know, crypto art really enables like these kind of conversations as well, like the community, and the fact that, you know, we're all connected in a way on Twitter, or, you know, on other platforms, really enables like that two-way conversation, which is very interesting, I think, from both a collector and an artist's perspective, to share these kind of thoughts.
Definitely. That's another great thing about crypto art. It's that the collectors, for the most part, are really interested into art, or we're getting people more interested into art, and everyone wants to know more. Everyone wants to connect. We're all connected. That's the idea for these one-line animations. If you want to go into
Yeah, so I wanted to actually go into this one specifically, which I mean, I really like it. I think it's super cool. But also it's kind of, you know, like a mix of, you know, your one line style with like an animated video. And yeah, I'd love to hear more about it.
Definitely. Well, I already explained kind of the roots of the one-line style, the whole idea that we are all connected. And funny thing is, when I started doing this like 6 years ago, I had never seen people, well, I had seen some artwork with lines, but I started seeing it more frequently. And I thought, how could I take this further? There's got to be a way to take the one-line style further and revolutionize it. And I thought, well, if the one-line style means we are all connected, why don't I start creating moments in time that we're all connected by in the one-line style? And when I thought of that, I had actually just gotten my iPad the first time I was making digital art. I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to try this, because I thought, what if I take an iconic moment and go through it kind of frame by frame, almost like a Disney animator style would way back, or like a flip book. Draw each moment and line it all up, and let's see what happens. I had no clue what it was gonna look like. I'd never seen this before. And I thought, what's one of the most iconic moments that I could think of in my past? Well, Kanye interrupting Taylor Swift. So I was like, let's do this. Let's try this out. So this was actually the first one-line animation I have ever made. One of my favorites too. And I think everyone that is now in pop culture has some sort of connection to this moment. I think whatever you think, whichever side you're on, or whatever feeling you have attached to it, a lot of people know this moment. And I think that's really cool that everyone can connect to a moment in a different way, but we're all connected by it. It just goes so perfectly, I feel like, with the style, with the concept. So yeah, I love this piece.
And
I'm happy it went to Westfield too. Great collector.
And actually, you with this, like, just to, for everybody who's watching as well, like, because you didn't like fully explain the one line, but you literally, draw with one line. So like, explain that, because I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, when I make a one-line drawing, what I mean by one line is literally drawn with only one line. I do not lift my pen from, in this case, the iPad. I do not lift it. So each drawing I do is only one line. And some may think that because the style or one line it's so simple. But I really spend a lot of time on especially portraits of people doing one line, or even like the Bernie drawing, for example. It takes a while to get it perfectly. I'm doing this hundreds of times. Just, I do it, not good enough, delete. Do it, delete. Over and over again until suddenly, boom, it happens. And I think that's an important lesson to any artist or anyone listening, is that things take time, but be patient. And once it happens, you'll know. Once you make something and it's finished, it's done. So yeah, with this one, it took a while. I mean, it's pretty intricate, but
yeah,
I somehow nailed it. It's like art.
Pretty intricate. Yeah.
I've been drawing with one line for, like I said, about 6 years now. So it's very natural to me. And I just let it flow. And that's another thing about like the animations. What I see is when I try too hard to get it exact or make it perfect, it's actually better, if for the one-line animations anyway, if I just go with my gut and don't overthink it too much, because life isn't perfect. It's not clean cut. So if there's differences in each frame, it adds to it. I think that's one thing about digital art that is interesting, and I think a lot of artists are trying to figure out, is that one thing that makes art so human is the imperfections, actually. When you go up to a painting and you see the brush strokes, or you see the brush hairs even stuck in the painting, it's human. So I think another step in crypto art is, how can we make something like digital art, which is natively perfect, you can perfect it and make it human. And I think how we do that is connect with people. It's all about the story. It's all about the connection. So once again, it connects back to this. We are all connected. And something like the Bernie happened so fast. We were all connected to it for a little bit of time. So I love taking these moments.
Yeah, and actually, on this, I think talking about like your one-liner and also like, I guess, connections. Like I know you're, as part of, well, first of all, as part of the permanent connection of the Museum of Crypto Art, you made a portrait of Colburn, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But not only of Colburn, like you've been kind of like working on a portrait series. So yeah, like maybe, talk a little bit about, I guess, this specifically and how that happened, how that relationship happened, and then we can go into the portrait series.
Definitely. I love Colborne. He is awesome. If you're listening to this, you're amazing, man. Okay. But really what happened was I got onto Super Rare and I posted like my first piece and it sold and I was super happy, in this high. And then suddenly I get another notification that like 6 of my paintings had sold. I was like, who just bought 6 of my paintings? This is incredible. Because as an artist during the pandemic, it was a hustle, to push out these paintings and work daily on art in hopes that someone would really appreciate it and value it. And that person was Colborne. It opened the gates to crypto art for me and showed me that in this space, everything is possible. And I just remember our first phone call after he collected some of my paintings and we just clicked. His vision for the future corresponded to my vision as well. He was an art lover. He appreciated my style. And I think that's why we wanted to include this portrait in the permanent and Genesis collection of the museum, because everyone, maybe not in this space directly, but especially in the museum, everyone is connected to Colborne. He was the founder of this idea. And I think it was important to include this portrait, not only of the one-line style, because I feel like that has so much potential moving forward, but because of the concept of the one line, we are all connected. And in the museum, everyone's connected to Colborne. But yeah, that's why I actually started doing the portraits. I've kind of kept it low key for right now, but basically I wanted to start I saw NFTs as a perfect chance to make portrait NFTs for people. And because that brings up memories. I remember way back where these portraits actually started. If you do know, or if you don't know, if you do know, you've been around for a while. Because how these portraits actually first started were, long story short, I was waiting for a Kid Cudi concert to start, okay? And I was waiting for my friend to be ready for it. And I was like, what should I do during this time? And I was like, I'm just going to tweet out free portraits. Does anyone want a free portrait? Comment your picture. And I go away from the screen for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And I look back and there's like 50 people wanting a portrait. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And once again, it connected to the idea. All these people that I'm doing portraits of, and it goes into this collection as well, all these people are connected in some way, shape, or form. And it's represented by the one line. But yeah, the first portraits I was doing was on my iPhone, literally just on like the Notes app with one finger. And now it's blossomed into this, where it connects me to people. And I'm so excited to see this collection grow in the future, because my vision for it is like Andy Warhol, how he would be doing portraits, commissioned portraits of celebrities or of people or of himself. And in the end, it shows all these people that were connected together. And who supported this journey and who are part of this technological and art revolution that is crypto art.
I love this. And actually, you know, I think it's such a cool idea to have like portraits of the community and like the people of crypto art, like Colburn, you know, 888, like Shivani, all of them like up here, you know, are in some shape or form, like, you know, have had like an impact in the community. So it's such a cool idea, and I'd love to see what you know, these portraits kind of like being developed even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think in like 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Think like long term. Think of how it's just going to be so cool to just have this entire collection of portraits. I would love even to do some virtual exhibition where all of them are on the walls and everyone who was drawn is there for this big get together. So yeah, all these people are connected. We're all connected, but excited to see how this grows. I got a lot of ideas for the one line.
Absolutely. And I guess, you know, my I'd be interested to hear kind of like your thoughts as well on, you know, someone that was kind of early on, or, you know, I guess earlier than like the big kind of explosion of like crypto art in the mass media. And now that like the space, let's say, has consolidated in a way and has become, you know, I guess, real. What are your thoughts about it? And, you know, how do you see it growing? Like, obviously, you know, museum, I know, you know, you're very close to Colburn, you're part of the permanent collection, like Museum of Crypto Art are, you know, are an institution now for the space. Like, how do you see that project as well, you know, in the future of this community?
I think there's, once again, so much potential for this community, for the movement, and so many possibilities. I think first, what I see with crypto art moving forward, now that it's gained a lot of traction and attention, is first for artists to not get sucked in to trying to appeal to the trends. I think the way we're going to keep on pushing this community and movement forward is by doing what pushed it forward in the first place: innovating. Innovate with technology, innovate how we experience and show art, and how you make art. And that goes into then my second thing. I think the next stage is people putting on exhibitions and the virtual art experiences. I know some people have already started with it, and I think it's going to become a lot more prevalent. I think with the museum, they are so ahead of everything. I think it's the next level, the next stage in art in general, because this goes back to what we were first talking about. Fine art, for the longest time, was in this little box. And even a little bit ago, even a smaller box, just old masters' paintings, you know, being auctioned off. And since then it's grown, but it was still in that box and controlled by kind of a select few at the top. But not only has crypto art allowed for what I'm going to say, but the museum especially is putting the artists in control, giving them power to determine how we move forward and what comes next. And that's what I love about the museum, the decentralized aspect of it, and putting power back into the artists. It's all about the art. I think it's almost like the art world, we don't want to get so caught up in the money that the art becomes secondary. Art is very important. I really do believe that. It's been around literally since we've been around. You know, that was one of the first things I started studying when I decided, okay, I need to study art. I was studying cave paintings and little mini Babylonian sculptures. And we can't forget where we came from. And I think that's what the museum is doing, setting that foundation where now we can build upon it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw today or yesterday, I think you tweeted, don't let money make you, which, you know, I think it resonated very much with me. And yeah, I think, you know, I completely agree with everything that you're saying. Like, there's so much to build still, you know, we're not even like 1% there, you know, there's so many things that can be explored. I like the idea that you just mentioned of, you know, innovating and keep like pushing those boundaries constantly, and not just kind of like sitting back and, you know, saying, okay, you know, this is happening, great, I'm just gonna kind of, you know, do what I can. Like, I think everybody can contribute to, you know, moving the space forward.
Totally. You know, this is the space for ideas. People are looking for new ideas. We all want to see new ideas, and it's exciting. You know, it's the future is exciting. But with that said, focus on the now. Focus on the moment, because it's easy in the crypto art community, I think, to get caught up in the sales, the drops, what's going to be next, you know, the ups and downs of this market. But if you focus too much on that, we once again lose perspective of what I believe this movement is really about. It's about empowering artists, about innovative art, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So my advice for everyone, honestly, is remember what we're doing, you know, why we're here, and have fun with it too. You know? Don't get too serious.
I think at the start you said something really, a very nice quote, that it was like, you know, first, you know, fine art and art was like in this tiny box, and like crypto art like exploded the box.
Yeah.
I love that analogy. I think that's very true.
Definitely. Even in like, I even see it as a physical box. It's like galleries are a box in their own way. They're a space with walls, and you're supposed to fit your art in it. And now, what's so fun and exciting is that you don't need to show your art in a box anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing, that's another thing that I think is going to be huge in the future, is these AR and AR sculptures, where you could put it anywhere, you could see it anywhere. That's another great thing I think about the internet and social media art and crypto art in general, is that art isn't just tucked away anymore. It's in the forefront. People are excited about it, and everyone can see it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the conversation. It was brilliant, and I'm looking forward to seeing the portrait series continue to showcase, you know, all of the portraits of the crypto art community. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm super excited too. For real.
Super. Thank you so much. It was awesome to speak.
Yeah, thank you for having me. For real, this has been awesome. And thank you to everyone that has been watching as well.
Super. Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.